We're going to talk about all the risks and rewards to buying a foreclosure property. First of all, you can get a really good bargain. Let's start with whether it's a good deal to buy a foreclosure. So foreclosures, just so you know, are properties that are in distress. When you hear the word distress, it's a distress sale where people are having difficulty making their payments, and there's a certain amount of payments that will pass depending on the mortgage or lending institution before they start the foreclosure proceeding, which is forcing a sale on the property. They can be a good deal. It really depends on how much of the property is mortgaged, because of course the bank is going to want to recoup as much as they possibly can to mitigate their risks. So let's talk about 5 steps in purchasing a foreclosure. Number 1, just like any other purchase, depending on the situation, you want to be able to view the property. Now, it can be sometimes challenging to get into a foreclosure because remember, the seller probably is not in a situation where they're really happy with the circumstance and they're trying to buy as much time as possible. So they may stop or try to refuse showings. So keep in mind that it may take you a little bit of time to get into the showing. There is a procedure that we have to go through to show foreclosed properties. And if it's an investment property and there's tenants, of course we have to give the tenants appropriate notice. So view the property would be step number 1. Step number 2, do your due diligence. So make sure that you're happy with the property since you are purchasing it in an as is, where is condition. And so as is, where is means you're going to get it as it is, and it may not even be as it is when you viewed it. So things like when the seller is actually vacating the property, they may take all of the appliances with them. Sometimes they take the light fixtures. I've seen actually them take the switch plates off the walls. Anything that might be worth any value. Obviously they are losing their home, so they're going to take everything that is of value. Sometimes that doesn't happen, but do your due diligence. Make sure that you're pre-approved. Make sure you have your financing in place. You do have to have that in place previous, and yes, you can get a mortgage on a foreclosure just like you would any other property. In fact, you probably have more time to get your ducks in a row because of the court date usually being a little farther ahead. Number 3, submit an offer. So you're just going to submit an offer through your real estate agent just like any other seller, although the seller is actually the bank or the lending institution. And what happens is they negotiate the offer just as you would normally. And then once you have an accepted offer, then a court date will be set. Your offer, whatever that accepted amount, will be disclosed to other competing offers, which is the unfortunate part because the accepted amount that you have may not necessarily be the final amount that the property sells for, which is where you have to really determine what you're willing to pay for this property, because I have seen people get in over their head where they overpay because it is a gamble, and if you're not a good gambler and you don't know when to walk away, you can get yourself into a little bit of trouble. Step number 4, competing offers and contesting the sale. So a few days prior to the court hearing, the offer becomes public, like I said, and other potential buyers will have an opportunity to outbid the original offer. And so typically this is done in a sealed bid format. Now, keeping in mind these people also have viewed the property previous, or they've gotten their financing in place and their ducks in a row. So they may show up in court, they may not. If they don't show up, then chances are pretty good that you're going to have your offer that's accepted move forward in front of the judge and be accepted. So then we move into the court date. All offers must be presented in a sealed envelope. Nobody knows what anybody's price is. And it's not only price actually that are factors. Sometimes you can put conditions on it if you just happen to be coming into court and haven't seen it. They're not obviously known to be very strong offers. It's much better if you have no conditions on your offer, and then the judge and the court will grant whatever most appealing offer is, basically, as the winner. So once they've accepted an offer, they may not tell you right away. You either will find out then, or you'll find out about 14 days after the court appearance or court date. Let's talk about risks when you're purchasing a foreclosure property. So you're buying it, the biggest risk really is that you're buying it as is, where is. So if you're going to have a building inspection, you want to do that previous. You want to make sure that there's no, major foundation issues, things that are hidden, because obviously when you're buying a typical house, we rely on what's called a property disclosure statement, which is a disclosure statement written by the seller, and that is to disclose any material latent defects. So basically anything that would affect you from buying this property that you can't see. And obviously there's nobody disclosing those, so you want to make sure you really, really check the property thoroughly. And as I said before, any fixtures, any faucets, cabinets, they could be removed, they could be damaged, maybe the last hoorah or last day that they're left, maybe it's going to be left unclean. So keeping in mind, you may have to clean up somebody else's garbage and clean up whatever they've left behind. Additional risk to consider when purchasing a foreclosed property is that the former owner or the occupants may not vacate. As we know, they will have a court order to vacate, but not everybody listens to court orders. So in this situation, the vendor is legally required to make an application to the court for a writ of possession. So I have seen people buy foreclosures and then they show up and they're not gone yet. So they have to go through this process for the writ of possession to get assistance from a court bailiff to evict and remove the occupants. Sometimes those are tenants, because the tenants are they get kind of caught in the middle of the process. So bearing all of this in mind, don't shy away from buying a foreclosure. They can be really lucrative. Sometimes nobody shows up in court and you'd be surprised at some of the prices that are accepted by the bank because there was quite a bit of equity in the home and very little mortgaged. So check out for a list of foreclosures. You can reach out to me anytime. Just send me a private message or email me at natasha@vancityhometeam.com. I can send that out to you.